The ivory envelope slipped from Elijah Westbrook's trembling fingers as he stared in stunned silence at Maya standing in his doorway, snowflakes melting in her dark hair and a sleeping infant bundled against her chest. "Surprise," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Meet your daughter." In that instant, the elaborate Christmas revenge he had spent millions orchestrating crumbled like a house of cards, and the truth he had buried for 18 months clawed its way to the surface. The baby he never knew existed could be the heir to his fortune, or the living proof of Maya's betrayal that would destroy him completely. The grand foyer of his mountain estate fell deathly quiet, the imported Italian marble suddenly cold beneath his feet despite the roaring fireplaces and the dozen guests mingling just beyond the archway. Elijah's new fiancée Victoria was laughing with his business partners, unaware that his carefully crafted new life was unraveling with each tiny breath the baby took. "You can't just show up like this," he hissed, reaching for Maya's arm to pull her away from the door before anyone saw. "Not tonight. Not with her." Maya's dark eyes flashed dangerously as she stepped back, her perfect figure silhouetted against the snowy backdrop. "You invited me, remember? Your assistant called 3 weeks ago, said you wanted to catch up over the holidays. Was this some sick game to parade your new life, your new woman?" She adjusted the blanket around the baby's face, revealing caramel skin and a wisp of black hair. "Well, game changed, Elijah. I've been keeping Olivia a secret for 8 months since she was born, but I'm done hiding your daughter while you play happy families." His mind raced, calculating dates and possibilities. Their breakup, that final night when passion had overruled their anger. The acquisition in Tokyo that had consumed him afterward. The unanswered calls he'd eventually blocked. "How do I even know she's mine?" he demanded, though the resemblance was already answering his question, those distinctive Westbrook eyebrows, the dimple in her tiny chin. Maya's laugh was sharp enough to cut. "DNA test is in my purse. I figured you'd ask that, along with a check I've never cashed. I don't want your money, Elijah. I wanted you to know your daughter." But clearly, that was a mistake. She turned to leave, the baby stirring against her chest. "Wait." Elijah's hand shot out, catching her elbow. The touch sent electricity through his fingers, the same chemistry that had once made them inseparable. "Don't go. Not yet." The word surprised him as much as her. "Just, come inside. Please." The grand Christmas party continued in blissful ignorance as Elijah ushered Maya through the service entrance and up the back staircase to his private study. Every step felt like walking through quicksand, his perfect revenge plot transforming into something far more complicated. He had invited Maya to show her how completely he had moved on, the new woman, the expanded empire, the happiness that didn't include her. Now, watching her soothe their daughter by the fire, his chest tightened with emotions he couldn't name. "She has your eyes," Maya said quietly, not looking up. "That's what hurts the most. Every morning, I see you staring back at me." Elijah poured 2 fingers of scotch with an unsteady hand. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. 27 calls, Elijah. 17 emails. You blocked my number, had your assistant return my letters unopened." Her voice remained remarkably steady as she unbuttoned her coat, revealing the simple elegance that had always been her hallmark. "After that, I decided if you wanted nothing to do with me, you deserved nothing to do with her." The baby, Olivia, stirred and began to fuss. As Maya rocked her gently, Elijah caught the glint of tears on her lashes, and something broke inside him. He had been so consumed with proving he was over her that he'd never considered she might have been just as broken. "I need to know everything," he said, kneeling beside them. "From the beginning." Maya looked up, her dark eyes meeting his. "Are you sure? Because once you know, Elijah, you can never go back to pretending she doesn't exist." Downstairs, the sound of champagne glasses clinking and Victoria's tinkling laughter floated up. Elijah closed his eyes, feeling his worlds collide. "I'm sure." As Maya began to speak, baby Olivia reached out and wrapped her tiny fingers around Elijah's thumb, holding on with surprising strength. Neither noticed Victoria standing in the doorway, her face draining of color as she took in the scene before quietly backing away. 3 weeks earlier, the plan had seemed perfect. Elijah had reviewed the invitation list with calculated precision, ensuring Maya would arrive just as he announced his engagement to Victoria. "Isn't it a bit cruel?" his assistant had asked, eyebrow raised. Elijah had merely smiled. "It's business, Caroline. She destroyed me once, this is just returning the favor." Now, holding his daughter's test results in one hand and a glass of scotch in the other, he realized he had never understood what destruction truly meant. The DNA confirmation was irrefutable, 99.99% probability of paternity. "I don't understand," he said, voice hoarse after hours of conversation. "You built that educational app, secured millions in funding. You're on the cover of Tech Innovator. Your life seems perfect." Maya's laugh was hollow as she paced the study, Olivia finally asleep in the portable bassinet she'd brought. "Perfect? I built that company while pregnant, gave birth, and was back at work 2 weeks later because I couldn't afford to lose investors. I sleep 3 hours a night, pump breast milk during board meetings, and cry in my car during lunch breaks." She stopped, fixing him with a stare. "But I'd do it all again because she's worth it. The question is, Elijah, what are you willing to do?" Before he could answer, the study door burst open. Victoria stood there, trembling with rage, diamond ring glinting on her finger. "I've been looking everywhere for you," she said, her voice dangerously controlled. "Your guests are asking questions. And apparently, so should I." Her eyes narrowed on Maya, then widened at the sight of the baby. "What is going on?" Elijah felt the room start to spin. "Victoria, this isn't." "Don't you dare say it isn't what it looks like," Victoria hissed. "Because it looks exactly like you hiding your ex-girlfriend and a baby in your study during our engagement party." "Engagement?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper as her gaze fell to Victoria's ring. Elijah stood, trapped between the two women. "I can explain. You invited her here tonight to humiliate her," Victoria said, comprehension dawning on her face. "That's why you insisted she come tonight of all nights. You wanted her to see you'd replaced her." She laughed bitterly. "And instead, surprise. She's got your baby." "God, Elijah, it would be funny if it weren't so pathetic." The baby started crying at the raised voices, and Maya moved to pick her up, soothing her with practiced ease. Victoria's face softened momentarily at the sight of the child before hardening again. "Choose right now, Elijah. Are you coming downstairs to salvage this evening, or are you staying up here with them?" The ultimatum hung in the air. In the firelight, Elijah could see the lines of exhaustion on Maya's face, the fierce protection in her eyes as she held their daughter. He looked at Victoria, beautiful and composed even in her anger, offering the uncomplicated life he'd convinced himself he wanted. "I need to stay," he said quietly. Victoria nodded once, slipped the ring from her finger, and placed it on his desk with a soft click. "Merry Christmas, Elijah. I hope you figure out what you actually want before you ruin anyone else's life." With that, she was gone, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. Silence settled over the study, broken only by Olivia's soft coos. Maya looked at Elijah, her expression unreadable. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," he said, surprising himself with the certainty in his voice. "I did." Outside the window, snow began to fall in earnest, transforming the mountain landscape into a winter wonderland. Below, car doors slammed as guests began to leave, the party dissolving in confused whispers and speculation. "I should go too," Maya said, reaching for the baby carrier. This was a mistake. Elijah stepped forward, his heart racing. "Don't leave. Not tonight. It's dangerous on these roads in the snow." He hesitated. There's a guest suite. Stay, just until morning. Please. Maya searched his face, looking for the manipulative billionaire who had invited her here for revenge. Instead, she found only the man she had once loved, looking lost and desperate. Just until morning, she agreed. But then Olivia and I are going home. As Elijah showed them to the guest suite, neither spoke of what would happen when the sun rose. But as he helped settle Olivia's things, their fingers brushed, and for a moment, the years between them seemed to vanish. In that touch was the memory of what they had been, and the question of what they might become. Morning arrived with blinding brightness, sunlight reflecting off the snow-covered mountains and streaming through the guest suite windows. Maya woke to find Olivia's bassinet empty, and panic surged through her veins. She bolted upright, then froze at the sight before her. Elijah sat in the window seat, Olivia cradled carefully in his arms. He was speaking to her in a low voice, his finger trapped in her tiny grip. "And that mountain over there? That's where your mom and I had our first real date. I was trying to impress her with my skiing, but I wiped out so badly they almost called the rescue team." He chuckled softly. "Your mom was the one who helped me down the mountain. She's always been the stronger one." Maya's throat tightened as she watched them, father and daughter bathed in golden light. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times during her pregnancy, but the reality was almost too much to bear. "How long have you been up?" she asked, her voice still rough with sleep. Elijah looked up, his face open in a way she hadn't seen in years. "She started fussing around 5. I heard through the door. I was sitting in the hallway." He looked embarrassed. "I couldn't sleep knowing you were both here. When she started crying, I thought I'd give you a break." "You've been holding her for 2 hours? Is that wrong?" "She fell back asleep, and I didn't want to disturb her." The concern in his voice was so genuine that Maya felt her carefully constructed walls begin to crumble. She crossed the room and sat beside them, her shoulder touching his. "You're a natural. Don't sound so surprised," he said with a hint of his old smirk. "I've built a multi-billion-dollar corporation from scratch. Surely I can handle one tiny human." Maya laughed despite herself. "Trust me, this tiny human is more demanding than any board of directors." She hesitated. "Elijah, about Victoria." His expression darkened. "That's over. It should never have begun. You invited me here to show her off," Maya said, needing to hear him say it. Elijah looked down at Olivia, then met Maya's gaze directly. "I invited you here because I was angry and hurt and wanted to prove I didn't care anymore." His voice dropped. "But seeing you again, meeting our daughter, Maya, I've been lying to myself for 18 months. The admission hung between them, too fragile to touch. Olivia stirred, breaking the moment as her face scrunched up in hunger. Maya took her, and Elijah watched with fascination as she prepared to feed their daughter. "I should give you privacy," he said, standing awkwardly. "It's nothing you haven't seen before," Maya replied with a small smile. "But thank you." As he reached the door, Elijah turned back. "Join me for breakfast after? There's something I want to show you." Curious, Maya agreed, wondering what new surprise this tumultuous Christmas could possibly bring. An hour later, Maya followed Elijah down a corridor she didn't recognize from her previous visits to the estate. Olivia was settled in a baby carrier against her chest, content after feeding. "Where are we going?" she asked as they stopped before a closed door. "I made some calls this morning," Elijah said, his hand on the doorknob. "Called in some favors." He pushed open the door, revealing what had clearly been a home gym now transformed into an impromptu nursery. A beautiful wooden crib stood in the center, surrounded by packages from the most exclusive baby boutiques in Aspen. Maya stepped inside, stunned. "You did this in a few hours?" "Money has its advantages," he said simply. "I know this doesn't fix anything. I know I have 18 months of absence to make up for." But I want you to understand, I'm all in, Maya. Whatever that means, however we figure this out. I want to be Olivia's father. The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable, but Maya had been burned before. And what happens when you get bored of playing daddy? When the novelty wears off and you remember why you blocked my number in the first place? That's not fair, Elijah said, his jaw tightening. You ended things, remember? You said my work consumed me, that I'd never make time for a real relationship. And you proved me right. Maya's voice rose. You buried yourself in that Tokyo deal for months, ignored my calls. Because hearing your voice hurt too much, he shot back, the admission exploding from him. Every time you called, I wanted to answer. Every email notification with your name, I wanted to drop everything and respond. But you made your choice, Maya. You walked away. Because I was pregnant and terrified. The words echoed in the room, hanging between them like a physical presence. Maya's hands trembled as she steadied Olivia against her chest. I found out the day after we broke up. I tried to tell you, but you were already gone, and then when you wouldn't respond. She swallowed hard. I decided my baby deserved better than a father who didn't want to be found. Elijah stared at her, the full weight of their miscommunications crashing down. We really made a mess of this, didn't we? The biggest, Maya agreed, a reluctant smile tugging at her lips. He stepped closer, close enough that she could smell his familiar cologne. So where do we go from here? Before she could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at it, frowning. It's my lawyer. I need to take this, it's about the restraining order against those paparazzi who've been harassing the estate. As Elijah stepped into the hallway to take the call, Maya wandered through the makeshift nursery, touching the tiny clothes, the plush animals, the state-of-the-art baby monitor. The care that had gone into these selections was evident. Whatever else Elijah was, he was serious about being in Olivia's life. His voice floated in from the hallway, suddenly sharp with concern. What do you mean they've been published? How did they? A pause. Damage control, now. I want those photos scrubbed from every site. Another pause. No, I don't care what it costs. Just fix it. Maya's stomach twisted as Elijah returned, his face ashen. What happened? She asked. Someone at the party last night took photos. Of us. Of Olivia. He ran a hand through his hair. They're all over the internet. Billionaire's secret love child ruins Christmas engagement. The world seemed to tilt beneath Maya's feet. What does this mean? It means, Elijah said grimly, that by noon, every reporter in the country will be trying to find out who you are and where you've been hiding our daughter. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. Within hours, Maya's phone began buzzing with notifications, first from friends who recognized her in the photos, then from journalists who had somehow obtained her number. Outside Elijah's estate gates, photographers gathered like vultures, telephoto lenses pointed at every window. This is exactly why I kept her hidden, Maya said as she paced the living room, Olivia mercifully napping through the chaos. I didn't want our daughter becoming tabloid fodder before she could even walk. Elijah ended yet another call with his PR team. We have options. We can release a statement, control the narrative. Or we can say nothing and wait for it to blow over. Blow over? Maya laughed incredulously. A tech billionaire's secret baby doesn't blow over, Elijah. My company is in the middle of a crucial funding round. My investors will see this and think I've been hiding major life events. My credibility. I'll talk to your investors, Elijah interrupted. I'll explain everything. That's not the point. Maya stopped pacing to face him. I built my company from nothing, worked twice as hard to be taken seriously as a woman of color in tech. I did it all while carrying and raising your child alone. And now, overnight, I'll be reduced to Elijah Westbrook's baby mama in every headline. The hurt on his face was genuine. Is that really how you see this? How you see us? I don't know what us even means anymore, she admitted, sinking onto the couch. 24 hours ago, you were engaged to another woman and plotting to humiliate me at a Christmas party. Elijah sat beside her, close but not touching. I was wrong. Monumentally wrong. I was hurt and stupid in trying to prove something that doesn't matter. He hesitated. But finding out about Olivia, seeing you again, Maya, it's like waking up from a long sleepwalk. Nothing in the past 18 months has felt real until now. The sincerity in his voice made her chest ache. Pretty words from a man who makes billion-dollar deals with pretty words. Then don't listen to my words, he said quietly. Watch what I do. Give me the chance to be the father Olivia deserves. To be the man I should have been when you first tried to tell me. The vulnerability in his eyes was something she'd seen only once before, the night they'd first said they loved each other, 2 years and a lifetime ago. Before she could respond, Olivia's cries came through the baby monitor, pulling them back to the immediate reality. I should get her, Maya said, standing. Let me, Elijah replied. Please. She watched him go, his determined stride matching the new purpose in his voice. Through the monitor, she heard him enter the nursery, his tone shifting to gentle reassurance as he picked up their daughter. Hey there, little one. Did you have a good nap? Your mom and I were just talking about what happens next. Maya closed her eyes, listening to Elijah soothe their daughter with a natural ease that surprised her. For 18 months, she'd carried the weight of parenthood alone, convinced he wouldn't want the responsibility. Now, watching him through the nursery doorway, she wondered if she'd been wrong about more than she realized. Her phone buzzed with an incoming call, her lead investor. With a deep breath, she answered, preparing to explain the media firestorm. 20 minutes later, Elijah found her staring out the window at the mountain vista, her expression unreadable. Everything okay? He asked, Olivia content in his arms. That was Stephanie Chen from Horizon Ventures. Maya turned to face him. Apparently, the publicity has attracted additional interest in my company. They're increasing their investment and fast-tracking the next round of funding. She gave a hollow laugh. Nothing like a scandal to boost your profile. Elijah studied her face. That's good news, isn't it? Is it? They're investing because I'm suddenly connected to you. Not because of my technology or vision. Maya, he said firmly, they're investing because they see an opportunity, yes. But the technology and vision are still yours. Use the attention, redirect it to what matters. She looked at him, really looked at him, seeing not the arrogant billionaire she'd expected to find at this Christmas gathering, but glimpses of the man she'd fallen in love with years ago. When did you get so wise? His smile was self-deprecating. About 5 seconds after I saw you standing in my doorway with our daughter. Amazing what clarity that brings. As if on cue, Olivia reached out toward Maya, making the little gurgling sound that indicated hunger. The domestic simplicity of the moment, passing their daughter between them, the casual intimacy of family, hit them both simultaneously. We can figure this out, Elijah said softly. The three of us. If you're willing to try. Maya took Olivia, her fingers brushing against his. I'm not moving into your mansion, if that's what you're suggesting. I have a life, a company. I would never ask you to give up what you've built, he replied. But maybe we start with dinner. Next week. Just talking. He hesitated. And maybe I fly to San Francisco sometimes to see Olivia. And you. The simplicity of the proposal, so unlike the grand gestures and dramatic declarations that had characterized their relationship before, touched something in Maya. Dinner, she agreed. Just talking. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the mountain estate, they sat together by the fire, 3 people connected by blood and circumstance, cautiously exploring what it might mean to be a family. Outside, the media circus continued, but inside, a fragile peace had taken hold. "I have something for you," Elijah said suddenly, reaching into his pocket. "I was going to wait, but—" He handed her a small box, not velvet like a ring box, but simple cardboard. Inside, Maya found a silver key. "What's this?" "The penthouse in my San Francisco building. It's been sitting empty. It has 3 bedrooms, good security, and it's 10 minutes from your office." He held up a hand as she began to protest. "It's not a gift. It's Olivia's. Put in her name if you want. But it would make it easier for me to see her, to be part of her life. And it's safer than your current place, especially with the media attention." Maya turned the key over in her hand. "I can't accept this." "Then don't. Not for yourself. But think about it for Olivia." His eyes were earnest. "I've missed 8 months of her life already. I don't want to miss any more." The simple truth of his words broke through her last defenses. "We'll think about it," she said, tucking the key into her pocket. As night fell, they shared a quiet dinner, talking more openly than they had in years. About the company milestones he'd achieved while trying to forget her. About the late nights she'd spent coding with Olivia asleep in a bassinet beside her desk. About the world they wanted to create for their daughter. "Stay for Christmas," Elijah said as they cleared the dishes together. "It's only 2 more days. The roads are still dangerous with the snow, and the press is still camped at the gates. We can figure out a statement together, face this as a united front." The request was reasonable, practical even. But Maya recognized it for what it truly was, a man asking for the Christmas he never expected to have, with the family he'd only just discovered. "Okay," she agreed. "For Christmas. But then real life begins. With all its complications." Elijah nodded, his relief palpable. "Real life. I'm ready for it if you are." As they settled Olivia for the night, their hands met over the crib rail, neither pulling away. Outside, snow began to fall again, covering the traces of yesterday's chaos with a clean, blank slate. And in that quiet moment, something long buried began to bloom again, not the passionate, volatile love of their past, but something newer and stronger. Something built not on grand gestures and dramatic declarations, but on the shared purpose of the tiny, sleeping person between them. "Merry Christmas, Elijah," Maya whispered. "Merry Christmas, Maya," he replied, squeezing her hand gently. "The first of many, I hope." The future stretched before them, unwritten and uncertain. But as they stood together in the soft nursery light, watching their daughter sleep, both felt the same unspoken certainty: some stories end so that better ones can begin. And theirs was only just beginning. Like the journey of these characters, life's most beautiful stories often come from unexpected beginnings. If this tale touched your heart, remember that subscribe, comment, like and sharing stories is how we connect. Your support helps more of these stories reach the world.